The throne room is silent. Palpatine sits above it all, patient, certain. He's waited decades for this moment. On the floor, Darth Vader, beaten, one hand gone. The man who was once Anakin Skywalker, reduced to breathing metal and regret. And, standing over him, his son, Luke Skywalker, lightsaber raised, chest heaving, eyes dark. For one breath, he almost did it. We know how this ends. Luke throws the saber away, refuses, chooses the light, but the margin between that choice and the other one was razor thin. Palpatine knew it, Vader knew it, and somewhere, Luke knew it too. So, let's go there. What if Luke Skywalker didn't stop? What if the most powerful Jedi who ever lived became something else entirely? The echoes of the Force compel us to explore this possibility. This is what the galaxy almost became. Most people remember that moment as Luke's triumph, but Palpatine had another plan entirely. The Emperor didn't want Luke dead. He wanted him converted to take Vader's place. Every word in that throne room was engineered for that. The taunts, the fleet reveal, handing Vader's fate to Luke's emotions. Palpatine had spent years reading the Skywalker bloodline. He knew exactly which wound to press. And it was working. When Luke attacks Vader, that's not a hero's charge. That's a man losing control. Palpatine leans back and watches, because this is precisely the moment he designed. And for one suspended moment, there is no Jedi, only a son pushed past his limit. The Emperor rises. Good. Your hate has made you powerful. He wasn't lying. One more step, and Luke was already halfway there. This was actually explored. Back in 1991, Dark Horse Comics published Dark Empire. For years, considered the official continuation of the saga. In it, Luke Skywalker surrenders to the dark side. Not through anger. Deliberately, he walks into the reborn Emperor's stronghold and kneels, convinced he can master the darkness from within and destroy it. What follows is one of the most unsettling portrayals of Luke in any Star Wars material. A man who genuinely believes he's in control, while everyone around him can feel him slipping. Leia has to pull him back. And it left us wondering, what if there was no one to pull him back? What paths does that open up? Branch 1, the perfect apprentice. Luke doesn't throw the saber away. He brings it down. Vader falls, and Palpatine, for the first time in decades, feels something close to satisfaction. But Luke Skywalker falling to the dark side isn't the same as anyone else falling. He doesn't arrive broken, desperate, or grieving like Anakin did. He arrives powerful, focused, and underneath all that darkness, still sharp enough to think. Palpatine gets exactly what he wanted. An apprentice, without Vader's sentimentality, without the suit's limitations, without the ghost of Anakin Skywalker haunting every decision. Luke is everything the Emperor spent 30 years trying to build. And that is precisely the problem. Palpatine's entire rule depends on one thing: being the most powerful person in the room. The rule of two exists for a reason. Master and apprentice, one to hold the power, one to crave it. Palpatine built an empire on controlling that dynamic. But he's never had an apprentice who grew up watching the empire fail, who knows every weakness in its structure, who has friends on the inside of the rebellion. In trying to create the perfect weapon, Palpatine may have handed the galaxy to someone he cannot control. The question isn't whether Luke serves the Emperor, but for how long. Branch 2, the Trojan Jedi. Now consider a different version of that same moment. Luke brings the saber down, but not out of pure rage, out of calculation. He's watched Vader. He knows the dark side destroyed his father from the inside out. But he also knows something Palpatine doesn't. That the Emperor's greatest vulnerability is his own arrogance, his certainty that darkness once touched cannot be walked back from. What if Luke uses that? He plays the apprentice. He lets the dark side in, just enough to be convincing, just enough to stay in the room, all while keeping one thread of the light buried so deep that even Palpatine can't feel it through the Force. This is the most dangerous version of Luke Skywalker imaginable. Not because he's evil, but because he's a Jedi pretending to be. Luke's plan requires him to stay Luke, but every day inside that darkness, he becomes someone who remembers being Luke. Someone who used to care about those things. The rebellion doesn't know what he's doing. Han thinks he's gone. Leia reaches for him through the Force and finds something she doesn't recognize. Is he saving the galaxy? Or just telling himself that, because the alternative is too hard to face? This branch doesn't have a clean ending. That's exactly what makes it the most compelling one. Branch 3. The galaxy's new terror. Luke falls, completely. No plan, no thread of light, no long game. Just a Jedi who went too far and couldn't find his way back. What does that galaxy look like? The Emperor has its weapon and the rebellion has just lost something more than a battle, a symbol. Luke Skywalker was the living icon of hope, a walking proof that ordinary people can turn extraordinary for the right reasons. A fallen Luke completely changes the war forever. He knows every rebel base, every smuggler's route, every person who ever helped him. The Death Star destroyed Alderaan from orbit. A dark side Luke, with full knowledge of the rebellion's structure, could dismantle it from the inside in weeks. And then there's Leia, his Force-sensitive sister, as he told her on Endor. Does she become the next target? Does she run? Does she try to reach her brother through a bond that may no longer exist? The rebellion falls because of one person that stopped believing. Han Solo once said Luke was the best pilot he'd ever seen and a good friend. In this version of the galaxy, he never gets to say that again. 3 branches, 3 versions of a galaxy that almost was. But here's what made us realize something every time that throne room scene plays out. Luke chose the path of light because he understands something in that moment that Palpatine never could. Power taken in anger doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the moment you lost control. He throws the saber away, not because he's weak, but because it's the only move that Palpatine, with all his centuries of manipulation, never once prepared for, an opponent who simply refuses to play. That's one of those moments where humanity triumphs, and it's exactly the reason that scene still lands after 40 years. The dark side was real in that room. The temptation was genuine, and the margin between the galaxy we got and the ones we just explored was one breath wide. Which branch do you think plays out? The apprentice who outgrows the master, the Jedi playing a long game in the dark, or the symbol that broke and took everything with it? Tell us in the comments, because the echoes of the Force are still listening.